You're listening to the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan.
Hey there, folks, and welcome to episode number 115 of the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan. My name is Kevin O'Shea, and I'm a Canadian who lives and works right here in Japan. That's right, I call Kobe, Japan my home, and I've been living here for 8 years now. And each and every week I bring to you a different topic about life in Japan. That's right, this is a podcast about all things Japan. So this week, we're going to be talking to Tom Gates of the Red Dragon Diaries YouTube channel. This is a guy who's from the United States. He's lived in South Korea, where I used to live. He knows a lot about Judo. Now he lives in Japan. And he's written a book to help people who are interested in teaching in Asia. So this week's episode is all about Tom and the Red Dragon Diaries. Hey folks, remember you can always find the Just Japan podcast on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Stitcher Internet Radio, and on Libsyn, the Libsyn player. And all those links are in the show notes for the Just Japan podcast, episode number 115 at justjapanstuff.com. Justjapanstuff.com, that's where you go to find out all things about Japan. That's right. I've written a few blogs recently about nature in Japan. So it's not just the podcast show notes homepage, but there's other things there as well. You can find my Instagram feed, lots of really awesome stuff, the Facebook community feed there, all kinds of cool things. And of course, always lots of awesome links each and every week at justjapanstuff.com.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
All right, folks, we're in the middle of the dog days of summer. That's right. It's nasty. It's humid. I mean, a lot of mornings when I wake up here in Kobe, Japan, honestly, it's just horrific with the humidity. And when I fire up various weather apps on my phone, typically when I wake up in the morning, we're talking 95% humidity. It got up to 100% today. By mid-afternoon, you're maybe down to 70, 65% humidity. It's pretty wet, sticky, and hot. It's the kind of weather where you definitely have to bring, and most of my coworkers do the same as I do, normally at least 2 changes of clothing to work with you. You have the clothes you wear to work, and then you get to work, and then you have a change for the morning, and you're probably going to have to change again in the afternoon. It's a time of year where you use a lot of deodorant and those Gatsby body sheets, preferably Ice Ape. The kind of things we talked about a few episodes ago with regards to dealing with summer in Japan, the dog days of summer. So it's really intense. It's nasty. So it's gross. I don't like it. Folks. Aside from that, I'm doing well myself. I've recently added some tweaks and changes, trying to reinvigorate the Just Japan podcast Patreon campaign. It's something that's been neglected for a long time. Some of you out there participated, now no longer participate. A few of you still do, but there's some more motivation out there now for you folks to go to patreon.com /JustJapanPodcast. That's where you can support this podcast. If you like it, if you care about this podcast, if you think it's cool, you can support us monetarily because, it helps a lot. So there's some incentives now if you go to the link in the show notes, or if you just go to patreon.com /JustJapanPodcast, or again, go to justjapanstuff.com, look at the link. So you can get yourself bonus episodes. There's a fee, kind of an entry-level fee where you can get yourself 1 bonus episode of the podcast a month, only for patrons, a mini episode. There's another fee where you can get yourself 2 bonus episodes a month, mini episodes. You can get yourself mentioned in the show. You can get yourself, if you got like a website or a business or something you want to kind of like pimp out. Yeah, essentially like advertising. You can get, I'll do that for you. if it's appropriate and it fits. I will mention your thing, your social media thing, your website, whatever it may be. And hey, if you're willing to donate to a certain level, why not come on the show as a guest? That's a possibility. So check out the new incentives over at patreon.com/JustJapanPodcast. Support the show. You love the show. There's a ton of you guys out there who love this show. It would help a lot to make the show better, to make just everything better on my end, my neck of the woods. Dare to dream I could someday be a podcaster, as a full-time job. Wouldn't I love that? That would probably involve me branching out to doing some other podcasts and doing some things, different topics, different things, different genres. Wouldn't that be fun? But with your support, I don't know. Well, we can at least take care of our server costs. We're not there anymore. We're not there anymore. So if you guys jump on board and we can take care of that stuff. But again, we got some cool incentives, and I'm definitely up for making some bonus material for you folks out there who are willing to contribute to Patreon, some bonus episodes of the podcast for only patrons. Hey, I'm game with that. I'm down with it. Let's do it. All right, check the show notes. All right, folks, I'm really excited to talk to Tom Gates this week, the guest on the Just Japan podcast. He's been in Japan for not that long. He's been in Asia for several years, most of his time in Korea, where he has an awesome YouTube channel called the Red Dragon Diaries, and I followed him for several years. And the man knows a lot of stuff about judo, which I think is really cool because I did judo for a short time in high school, once upon a time. And also, my 20s and early 30s, I was a big practitioner of martial arts. I was a boxer in high school for a while too, and I spent a lot of time doing taekwondo when I lived in Korea. I don't practice martial arts right now, but maybe in the future it would be something I could do. I really have a passion. I had a passion for it. Really loved it. Loved the discipline. Loved the training. Loved how it made me a physically stronger, a mentally stronger person. Tom's got this amazing YouTube channel with a lot of great videos about, life in Korea, martial arts, life in Japan now. So I want to have him come on the show and talk about all of that cool stuff. And also, he's recently written a book that's available for sale, about teaching English in Asia. And I want you guys to have a chance to hear about that. I mean, many years ago, I wrote a book about the same kind of thing, but my book is dated. That's 6 years ago I wrote that thing. And, times change, knowledge changes. And Tom's got some really great up-to-date current knowledge about this. So I really want, for you folks out there who are interested in teaching in Asia, to take a listen to this podcast, because, you're going to hear more about his book. But also for all of you out there who are interested in just life in Korea, life in Japan, you're interested in judo, you're going to find this a cool interview. So sit back and listen. All right, folks out there, it is Just Japan Podcast, episode number 115, Red Dragon Diaries. And I've got a special guest this week, and that is Tom Gates. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, and thank you very much. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I've been watching your videos for years on YouTube, and finally have a chance to get to chat with you. So I'm really looking forward to this. So to begin with, could you tell the Just Japan podcast listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do here in Japan?
Well, let's see here. I was born and raised in New Hampshire, which is the far, far up northeastern part of the United States. And New Hampshire is pretty rural in general, but I'm from a very small town, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm from a small town," but high school, just to give you a perspective, was comprised of, I think, 5 neighboring towns, and my graduating class had 60 students.
Oh wow, that's small.
Yeah, it was small.
I'm actually a small town boy myself. I'm from Nova Scotia, not that far away. And I grew up in a little fishing village of about 1,000 people. And we had a county high school, but we had people shipped in from probably about, 20 areas. So
wow.
it was definitely more than 60 people Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
Cool.
small town. And went to school there, went to the University in of New Hampshire. And then because it's freezing cold up there during the winters and everything, I moved to Florida for a short time, and then I lived in New York City. I moved back up north for work, and that's when I was in IT and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, New York City.
So you're involved in the IT industry. What did you do in that?
Well, it was software development, and I'm not an engineer. I'm not a programmer or anything like that. I got involved on the administrative side because if you remember the whole Y2K shenanigan,
Yes, yes.
so that whole thing created a massive number of jobs, and I was able to get my career started because of that, and I started learning the ropes and whatnot. And so I wrote specs, and I moved into more specific project management for IT, and more specifically like software development.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. No, I'm interested when I hear that because I was involved, believe it or not, I was involved in software development right around the same time as you were.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was, and those of you who are, loyal listeners will know. I used to be a 3D modeler at a game design company around like the late '90s into the early 2000s before I went to Korea.
No kidding.
Yeah, small
Oh,
world.
so you have like a creative streak then in you.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah. The 3D graphics was something I was really into. Not an animator. Not an animator. I'll clearly tell that everyone. Not an animator. I have no idea how to make things move. But and I was not a character modeler either. I made stuff for
Oh,
games.
okay.
But yeah, it was a wonderful thing. But yeah, okay, cool. So you're in New York. You're doing that kind of thing.
And then I moved back to Florida, and let's see here, in 2005, and that's where I was up until I went to Korea.
All right, so there we go. You were in Korea, so you're in
Yes.
Japan now, and we'll talk a bit more about that. But I'm curious about your path that led you here. So you lived in South Korea.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about what led you to South Korea and what you did there?
Well, in a nutshell, around 2008, 2009 is when the whole meltdown of the economy happened with the banking subprime mortgage fiasco there.
Yeah.
And I was one of the fortunate people to get laid off from my job at the time. And that was like around the end of 2008. So for the following couple of years, it was a mishmash of going to the other side of Florida, heading back up to New Jersey, New York to try and grab contracts and just kind of keep things going. But all
Mm.
during that time, I had been looking into teaching English because I was thinking to myself, I had kind of become a little disenchanted with IT. I'd been doing it for 13 years. So I said, maybe I just need to get away for a little while, and then, teaching English in Korea, maybe that would be a good option just to kind of shake the rust off a little bit and just see where I'm at.
Mm.
So throughout going back and forth, up and down, all over the East Coast, I was looking into it and um, getting my documents together, talking to recruiters, watching videos, and that's your video. I think has to be, if not the first, one of the first videos, the one where you're sitting in like a dark room with a baseball cap on.
Oh God, that was one I made in Canada. After I'd left Korea, because I left Korea, and like, in my time in Korea teaching, I taught there for 5 years, and I said to myself, I really love teaching, so I'm going to go back to Canada and become a air quotes real teacher. So I went back to university and I got my teaching degree, and I made that video while I was in university in Canada, getting my teaching degree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like that was my first viral videos, I
Yeah,
suppose.
it was
And
real
at the time it
popular.
was viral. It got like 50,000 hits, which in 2007 was like mad.
That's big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back then the people don't understand now, and it surprises me just how quickly time has gone by. But back in 2009, 2010, there was only like, I mean, regulars, maybe like four or five. I don't know if you remember Durkee in Korea,
Yeah,
and
Mike Durkee. There was Mike Durkee. Yeah, I'm still friends with Mike Durkee.
oh no
Well,
kidding.
yeah. I mean, he still vlogs. And he I follow him on Instagram. And there was Mike Durkee, and then Mike Arnold,
Mm.
who was like the epic exploring the streets of Seoul.
Yeah.
Epic guy. Yeah, but
Yeah. Well,
there weren't many, huh?
there weren't too many. I mean, if you wanted to, back then it's oh, I want to see what a Korean apartment looks like. There were like 10 videos,
Well, one of them was mine.
and one of them was yours. And I think you had a couple when you had moved around and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now, you can't even. It's an ocean of videos.
Hmm.
But so I ended up landing a permanent, really good job in Miami. I sometimes I look back and say, boy, that was a pretty good gig. But um, I ended up saying, look, you're disenchanted with this. I mean, you can always go back to it. So I had uh, received the call back that I was going to go to Epic, and I said, you know what, just go, just go. So I quit that job, and I ended up going to Busan with Epic, which is
what is that? What is Epic? Yeah.
so Epic is the English program in Korea, and that's the public schools English program. Basically, what it is, it's assistant teaching to the Korean co-teacher, and you help teach classes, you model authentic speech, and you do a lot of games and activities and things like that. It's a great gig. It's a nice way to see Korea. It's low stress. It should be low stress.
Would it be relatively accurate for me to make a comparison, say that's kind of the Korean equivalent of the JET program?
I think they're pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, so you're there with the Epic program, and you were in Busan your whole time?
Yeah, I was in Busan for 4.5 years. I was with Epic. We got extended just to bring everyone to the same time frame, so that's where that 4.5 years comes. And I had just kind of reached a point after 4.5 years where I thought, I think Epic is a good way to start. I had decided to let IT kind of fall by the wayside, so I was approaching teaching a little bit more seriously, and I said, it is I'm so comfortable now, it's almost a bad thing. So I think it's time to kick things up a notch and I guess spread my wings and move on. And that's what I did.
Nice, nice, and we're gonna get into that because you're here in Japan now. But what I'm curious about, I mean, watching your YouTube channel, the Red Dragon Diaries. I mean, you do talk about a lot of different things. You got like food videos, travel videos. You talk about teaching a lot. You give a lot of great advice, but obviously a theme that comes up in your videos that is clearly something you're passionate about is judo.
Yeah.
So judo is a big part of your life. Can you tell us about kind of your judo experience, your judo journey?
Yeah.
Where did that begin?
Well, I've always been in martial arts. My foundationally, I guess you would say, from my young days, my background is actually like in punching, kicking styles like karate and taekwondo and full contact kickboxing and stuff like that.
Okay.
But then I went to college, and it was there that they had a judo club, and so I joined that, and I really fell in love with it, and I just kept doing it, and it's been with me the whole time.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
No, I'm totally interested in that because like when I was a kid, growing up in Canada, I had an opportunity to do a little bit of taekwondo, and then in high school I did judo, and I was in a boxing club as well. And then when I went to Korea, before I lived in Busan, I lived in a place called Ilsan in Gyeonggi-do, and then I lived in Seoul proper, like downtown in Seoul, near in Shincheon, near Yonsei University. But when I lived in Ilsan, I actually started training in Taekwondo, and it was just, to be honest, of my 5.5 years in Korea, that's my best experience. It was like a year and a half where I trained 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And I trained every night after work. I finished work at 7:30. I would have class at 8, and I trained. It was an hour class, but the master would let me sometimes stay a bit later and train. And then eventually, when I built a good rapport with him, basically I became like a recruiter, and I got him so many foreign students. I was one of those first, and then I got him about 20 foreign students.
Wow.
That he was like, you don't have to pay me any money anymore.
Nice.
He was like don't worry about this. And then he was like, like if you got breaks in the afternoon and stuff, like break time between classes, his dojang was like right across the road from my hagwon. He was like, just come on over and train.
Jeez.
So I could like just like if I had an hour break or a 2 hour break, I'd just run across the road and put on my I think if I remember the term, dobok,
Yep,
And
yep.
then I'd just start kicking the heavy bags and you know, do some training for a while, and then I'd change and run back to work, and then come back after school and do my class, and loved it.
Wow, you were serious. I had no idea you were so involved. I had no idea you were involved in Taekwondo.
Yeah, Taekwondo was a huge part of my life, actually. My first
Wow.
few years in Korea, and I got to red belt, and my masters were always pushing me to go to, oh God, Kukiwon, I think they call it
Hmm.
in Gangnam, to get my black belt. But I never felt that I was ready,
Mm.
because I know that in Judo, for example, in Japan, uh, from experience with friends of mine who do Judo, that it's kind of a very Judo and take I guess, how shall I say, sometimes martial arts in Asia can have a very different perspective with belts than in Western culture.
Mm.
Like I think that, like with Taekwondo in Korea, the black belt is a beginning. You can get your black belt actually relatively quickly,
Right.
and then your martial arts journey kind of begins, and
Hmm.
you head towards becoming a master. Whereas in Canada and America, it takes many years to get your black belt,
Mm.
and getting that black belt is kind of a sign of a level of mastery.
Hmm.
So you know, I was a red belt in Taekwondo in Korea, and I was pretty adept in my class. But then I remember a new guy in town came, a guy from the States, who was a red belt in America, and oh my God, he was so much better than me.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, just like the precision of his kicks were just so
Wow.
much sharper, and then it was just kind of like, oh wow, I'm wearing the same belt, but he's at a definitely much higher level. And
Right.
he'd been doing Taekwondo, he said, for like 10 years,
Wow.
and I'd only been doing it for a year, and I was at this, like, the same belt level.
Hmm.
um but you know, my master had told me that once you get your black belt, then you start learning.
Interesting. Yeah, that
Like
sounds fun.
at least in Taekwondo, it's like once you have the black belt, then you start learning. um yeah,
Yeah,
but
I think it's pretty similar. I think I think the black belt kind of just represents a general but firm understanding of, I guess you would call it, the curriculum of the art, which means you can demonstrate things. You're not going to the Olympics or anything like that, but you understand the techniques. You can demonstrate them to your level of athleticism or whatever it is. You've put in a relative time and grade, and so there's your black belt. And like you said, I, if you really want to get good, then there's all these different venues to get really good, which I think are missing. Not I think they're missing in America and stuff like that. But the black belt is really just and like you said, I think it kind of throws people off because they're like, wow, they give the black belt so simple and blah blah blah. And yes, it's yeah, I think it's just showing that that you're grasping the curriculum up to that shodan or chodan in Korea, and then they have all these different ways that you can really attain mastery or high level competitive skills and things like that.
yeah, well, I mean, what I'm just kind of having flashbacks to my time training, and one of the reasons why and actually I want to bring this into some of the videos you've done about training, about judo in Korea. But I mean, I actually became disillusioned because of the hagwanization
Mm.
of the martial art where I was. Um, you know, obviously a hagwan would be the same as an eikaiwa in Japan, like a language school or this or
Hmm.
that. And as a business model, you don't want to lose students. You want to keep them. So even if often in English schools, even if they're not, if they haven't achieved the level they need to move on to the next level, you fear that you're going to lose their tuition money, even
Mm.
if they're not ready to move on to the next level. So in order to keep their tuition money coming in, you still move them on, even if it's not, if they're not ready. And I saw that. I mean, I didn't train. I wasn't hardcore in Taekwondo. I mean, I was just training, like, you know, it was a hobby.
Right.
You know, no aspirations of becoming competitive because I didn't start doing it until I was like 26.
Mm.
Um, but you know, I remember I took it extremely seriously, and I really loved it. And I would train several times a day, and then I'd wake up in the morning, and I would, like, first thing in the morning I'd wake up and I'd stretch for, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour, I'd go to school and work, and then I'd train in the afternoon, and then I'd go to class at night, and then when I'd go home, I'd practice my pumses, my forms in front of a big mirror, and I really took it seriously. And then I would go when we'd have a belt test. I would do my test, and then I would watch other people come up and do the test, and they would make so many mistakes, and then like the next Monday we'd come in and they'd get the same belt that I would. They would all be promoted. And I'd be like, but no, they made so many mistakes. I worked so hard. They clearly didn't. Right. And I got so pissed off that eventually I just stopped training. But so there's that kind of level. But I mean, you know, I saw some videos that you put up in Busan where you went to some special schools. And that just looks so hardcore. Like the special, like the elementary school, junior high school, kind of, you know, you made a couple of videos where it went right up to the university system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the great divide right there. You know, there's local club play, and that's mostly like, you know, for fun and camaraderie and stuff like that. And, you know, you can get a black belt and, you know, in a couple of years or something like that, and, you know, be on with it. I think it's just kind of part of it's just something you do, you know.
And I think that's how most people practice martial arts in the world. Probably it's that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's a hobby.
Yeah, as a hobby, and, you know, make you feel good and give you some confidence and stuff. But, you know, the difference between a Korea or Japan and so many other countries, not just America, but so many other countries, is, you know, it's rooted in the culture. You know, Japan, it's their style, and Korea and Japan have so many similarities culturally. So the system, if you want to get on a track to really get good, they're similar. And the best way to do that is to have it in the schools, and they have it way early on in elementary schools, middle school. You know, they got all-girl middle schools that have judo teams. That was the whole element that I was like, you know what, that's what I think a lot of people want to see, and I would like to see that too. And so I just snooped around, and I had made a lot of friends and a lot of connections in judo. So, but that's the big thing. And if you're from America, you just don't, probably Canada too, you don't have that option. You can be so passionate about it, but you're like, oh man, the one guy that went to the Olympics in 1976 or whenever, 1980s, he's on the other side of the country. I can't go train with him, you know. So whereas Korea is a teeny tiny country, South Korea is, but they've got, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of Olympic gold medalists and world champions just floating around, and you know, you can just cross paths with them and jump on the mat with people that are training 5-6 days a week, you know, doing randori at high level with other guys, you know, like at a university or something. So that whole element is missing. So if you're a kid and for some reason you get bitten by the judo bug or the karate bug or kendo bug, same in Korea. In Korea, the big three are judo, they call it Judo, kendo, they call it gumdo, and taekwondo. Right. Yeah, those are the three big ones.
Yeah, that's right, gumdo, that's right.
And if you want to be good at it, you can be really good at it. I mean, gumdo is like way more popular than judo in Korea. I would say gumdo is easily the second most popular martial art in Korea behind taekwondo. Easily.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, taekwondo rules, right? That is definitely number one. Judo almost seemed kind of underground to me. Like, I mean, I had when I lived in Gyeonggi-do in Ilsan, I had one friend. I knew an American guy who was a wrestler, and he wrestled in university in the States. So he found a judo club, and I remember they actually, like, I think he was like a varsity wrestler in university. So in a pretty big school. So he joined judo. He had never done judo before, but like I think like after like a month, they're like, "Here's your black belt."
Oh, really?
Or not a black belt, but I don't know. It was kind of like it was a kind of a hagwon system. So they gave him like a high colored belt. Whereas I know here in Japan, I know, for example, when it comes to judo, you're a white or you're a black.
Right.
In karate too. I think no, maybe not karate. Well, maybe actually for children it's different. For children they give them colors to motivate them. But as an adult, I know in judo, white and black, right?
White, brown, black.
White, brown, black. Okay, because
Yeah.
I've got some friends who've trained in this area who went from white to black,
But like you said, I think it
and
depends.
they were white belt for a really long time.
Yeah, I think it depends because the more the more colors you have, the more tests and you can charge for that and stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious. How did you get into judo? When you like, I mean, obviously, okay, you're doing it in America, but
Yeah.
this is an interesting thing. I mean, like, for people who are practitioners of martial arts in their own country, and they come to Korea or they come to Japan. You come here, you don't speak the language, you don't know anybody. I mean, I'm going to be really honest. The way I got into Taekwondo was completely accidental. It was like literally one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, I found this like flyer outside." And it was all in Korean.
Yeah.
And at the very bottom,
Flyer.
at the very very bottom of the flyer, in English, it just said "Foreigners welcome" in English, like 2 words.
Yeah.
And we were like, "Huh." So that intrigued us. And she was like, "Would anyone be interested?" And there was myself and like 2 other people. Like, yeah. And we went over and we inquired. And actually, our Taekwondo master, he had just moved back from L.A. He was like Korean American. And he had been like a professional bodyguard and this and that, and he so I mean, like, he spoke completely fluent English.
Oh, funny.
But it was but the reason we literally found it by chance.
Yeah, really.
But if you're a judo practitioner and you're in America or Canada, Australia, wherever it may be, and you're coming to, say, Japan or Korea, what's some advice you'd throw to people for, like, how do you get started doing it?
Well, like you said, judo is it feels underground because it's such a rough style. It really isn't for everybody. They call it the gentle way, but there's nothing gentle about it. There's many injuries. It's grappling, it's throwing and stuff like that. So there's far less schools and stuff like that. So I would say for the average person, the best way to do it, the very best way, is to go wherever you're working and ask a Korean to go onto a site called Naver, Naver, which is kind of like a Google-ish type thing. And if you type in like judo, they'll type something in and it'll bring up all the schools in that area, and then you can just go visit there.
Okay.
The way I found mine, and I'll be honest, the old man there that you've seen in the videos. I mean,
yes.
I don't know how long I'll be teaching abroad or doing whatever I do, or even doing judo. This situation that I came into with this old man.
Tell us about this old man, because those videos are amazing.
The story,
with like the soju bottle stuff he does and the push-ups, and oh my god.
This podcast could be about him. I mean, that's how broad this story stretches, and it's so you can't pen something like this. I'm on a. If you remember Busan, I lived in Yeongdo. Yeongdo was the island right over the bridge from Nampodong.
Oh, okay. I lived like in the hub. I guess I lived in Hyundai-gu and Jung. Gosh, I'm forgetting Jeongnam, I want to say.
Gwangali?
No, not actually. Jungsan.
Oh, okay.
Like
right,
past
right.
Hyundai by Dalmaji, where all the tourists go.
Yes.
Well,
if you know Nampodong, right across, and Jagalchi Fish Market.
Mm-hmm.
If you're out on the water in Jalgaochi, you'll look at Yeongdo. It's this island.
Yeah.
So it's separated, So and everyone kept telling me when I first moved there, oh, it's a lower income area and stuff like this, and blah 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 blah. And it's just kind of out there. Well, I had gone grocery shopping, my first time or second time being in Korea. I mean, I'm brand new there, like a month, but I had taken out these Pimsleur Korean CDs from a local library back home before I left. So 2 or 3 phrases. So I take a cab home with all my groceries, and we come up to this main intersection, and my apartment is very close by, and I'm like, all right, Yudojang Odao. Where is there a judo school to the cab driver? Because I'm like, if anyone knows the lay of the land, it's going to be a cabbie.
Yeah.
And he just points right up, straight up at a building, and he goes right there. It was just like that. Boom, it's right there. I was like, oh, okay. I look up, and there's like kind of these old pictures, like outlined pictures of judo, guys up there,
Yeah.
like cartoon things. So I go up there, and that was it. I mean, this is a story about it's like I always tell people, it's like when you go to a movie and there's the kid from, Canada or America, and he's like, I want to go to such and such a land and learn with the master that sits atop the mountain, who nobody knows, and he's just like, everyone's forgotten about him, but he's this gem of massive talent and whatever. That is this story, because Yeongdo is separated from Busan.
I actually, you know what? I just had to bring up Google Maps to refresh myself. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've never been there.
Yep. There's you have to you either there's a university out there, Christian university. You either go for that, or it's actually built up a lot since you've left. But even so, you have to go out of your way to go out there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a self-contained community, whatnot. So here's a guy. Now, this judo dojo was founded in Japan in 1944.
Okay.
So, and then in 1945, independence happened, and they took the school called Kuksagwan, and they moved it to Busan, and that's this school. And there were two owners prior to this guy, but he's been there for 30, 40 years. He's been the owner of the school. And from there, you've seen the pictures. The way it all started was there's a class.
And by the way, guys, I'm going to put videos in the show notes. You go to the Just Japan podcast, or sorry, why do I say that? JustJapanStuff.com, and there will be video links to the videos about this guy. You'll see him, and you'll get what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, continue.
So I go up, and then these days I had bought this Cisco Flip right before I left for Korea, because I'm like, I want to take a few pictures. So I bought this Cisco Flip. It was discontinued, so it was like $60. I'm like, perfect. You just press the button and it's on. So I go up to this school. He doesn't speak a lick of English. And, he's got that raspy, growly voice. And he's just like, he comes up and he says something to me. And then one of the kids happened to speak English, and he says, "What are you doing here? Why do you want to do judo?" That's what he asked me. So, we were talking. I explained to them, that I was experienced and whatnot. There's a class at 6. It goes from 6 to 7. Then from 7 to 8 is off, and then 8 to 9 is a class. During that in-between time, he goes in his back room and kind of watches TV. He eats dinner and then comes out for the second class. Sometimes he'll go and he'll sleep. Well, this video, Strength of a Korean Judo Master, was when he had just woken up from a nap. And prior to that, I would watch him doing these exercises with the kids on, he would challenge them, because he's 64 at the time. He's pushing 70, he's pushing 70 now, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm watching him do these exercises, and I know enough to know that's not normal. Right? So I'm like, all right, can I take a picture of you doing these things? And he said, yeah, fine. So the next time I came in, I brought my camera. He woke up from a nap, walked straight on the mat, took his shirt off, and that's the video. He was face all like wrinkled from laying down on it. He had just woken up. When you turn on that video, maybe earlier, he just rolled off the thing. He's 64 years old. So he jumps on there, and I take this video on my little Cisco Flip. But I had just arrived in Korea, so I was, still brand new. So I took the thing and I threw it in my bag for like a month or two. It was just sitting there. So one day I was bored and I said, you know what? Let me learn how to make a video here. So I used this Microsoft Windows Movie Maker,
Oh
and I
yes,
made
that was my first editing suite as well.
yeah. And I'm like, all right, let me see how you do this. And so I did it, and I threw it up, and then the thing went crazy. Well, the story in it, I mean, the story right there is amazing. I mean, this is an amazing guy. So what happened later on was I got a call while I was at my school at lunchtime from from a cable television station up in Seoul.
Okay.
And they're like, are you the guy that shot this video? Because we want to get in touch with your Gwanjang-nim there. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And basically it was one of those variety shows where they look for these like amateur videos that are kind of like inspiring stories around Korea and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he was one of them, and they shipped him up to Seoul for a day or so, and they put him on national TV, and he was on there. They were talking to him about his history and all that kind of stuff. An amazing, amazing story.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Nice, nice.
Yep.
Okay, so wow, yeah, that's very cool. Guys, I'm gonna put links in the show notes to these videos will be in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com. Okay, so okay, you've got a YouTube channel. We've already kind of established that, but I mean your videos aren't just about judo. So I mean, actually, your YouTube channel. I was just checking. You've got like 34,000 plus subscribers, and so what kind of inspired you to start a YouTube channel? And can you tell us about the Red Dragon Diaries? What types of videos do you have in your channel?
Well, it's the types of stuff that I cover are mainly teaching related, judo related, mainly because of the Gwanjang-nim there. I had a lot of material. Some food and travel whenever I go on vacation or something like that. So, and then, I'll do maybe some random, commentary on some topic or whatnot. And that's basically the gist of it.
Cool. And you were doing for a while. I remember you were doing some videos with friend of the Just Japan podcast, Steve Miller.
Yeah.
Now a Voice of America reporter.
Yeah,
Stephen Miller. You were doing some fun videos with kind of Seoul and Busan, talking about your different perspectives on different topics.
Yep. We were kind of, we would choose a topic, and then we would kind of talk to each other, give our opinion to each other through our own video and whatnot.
Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you've lived 4+ years in Korea, but you're not in Korea anymore.
No.
So where are you now?
Now I am in Hiroshima, Japan, and I was 4.5 years in Busan. It was a great I honestly never thought I was going to be staying abroad that long. But I knew it was time to move on. I said, maybe it's a little unhealthy for me, I think, now, because the job was just really getting a little too unchallenging at the time. And I said, now I'm not really, the newness is worn off. I'm not noticing, the stuff anymore, and maybe it's time for me to move on, and it really was. So I was actually eyeballing Southeast Asia, so mainly Vietnam, and I had received a couple offers. One was ironically with a Korean international school, so I was going to go to another country to teach Korean kids again. Yeah,
teach Korean kids English in Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly. So and a couple others, a Montessori school in central Vietnam. And then, so I had all my documents verified or whatnot, and I was ready to go. And it was just a random thing. I just jumped on, Dave's ESL one night, and I saw this posting. And there had always been a part of me that wanted to go to Japan, but it's really tough to get into Japan because most of them say must be in Japan, or you already have to
have the visa. Yeah.
And if not, then you got to go really rural. But then if you go rural, you need a driver's license. And my driver's license expired when I was in Korea. I let it slip. And so I was my hands were tied. So but this one was in Hiroshima, and I contacted them, and then boom, boom, boom. Things came together, and I had a complete shift. And so now I'm with a private elementary school here in Hiroshima.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in Japan now?
About 4 months.
About 4 months. Nice.
Yep. So I'm still brand new here.
So how are you liking it?
Well, Hiroshima is a really nice town. It's I think it's 1.1 million. It's got areas that give it a nice city feel, but at the same time, it's low key enough where you're not like it's not too much. And I think for me, with just at my age and with what interests me and stuff like that, I think it's a better situation for me. I think it's a good situation for me. And the school, it's it's part of a conglomerate of schools, I guess you would say, in the city here. It's a company that owns 2 universities, 2 high schools, a middle school, and this elementary school.
Oh, okay.
So it's a pretty big outfit, and yeah, it's a pretty good. It's a nice town here. I like it.
Nice. Yeah, I've only been to Hiroshima once, and that was in, I guess 2008 when I first arrived here, just a few months after. And it's quite an impactful place. It's quite meaningful, like when you go to places like the Peace Park and whatnot.
Yeah.
You have that side, but then you also have the wonderful things like Hiroshima style okonomiyaki. Love that. Yeah. So okay, hey, you have written a book, good sir.
Yes.
You've written a book, and that's what caught my attention. Recently, I saw a video of yours, and I'm like, hey, this guy wrote a book. Tom wrote a book, and I've been watching your videos on and off for years, and especially when I see that someone else, when someone out there has gone through the process of writing a book. I've actually had several authors on this podcast in the past. And once upon a time, many years ago, I wrote a book about teaching in Korea and Japan. 6 years ago. It's all very dated stuff now. I would even mention what it was called. But I mean, I'm familiar with the writing process, and it was an amazing challenge for me, and it was really incredible thing to do it and get it out there. But yeah, so you've written a book that is a resource for those out there who are interested in teaching in Korea. Could you tell us a little bit more, or could you tell us about it?
Yeah. Well, the name of it is Destiny Nation Korea. And it's, when I had like 5 or 6 different titles, but it was kind of a play on words for me because, sometimes you say destination such and such, that type of thing. But in some ways, now that Korea has gained a lot of popularity, through pop culture and media outlets and stuff like that, and the English teaching thing has gotten bigger and bigger. For a lot of people now, they're eyeballing Korea. And in some ways, especially for a younger person, it is like a destiny in a way. Wow, I'm going to go to this place. I'm from the Midwest, and I'm going to go to Korea. I can't believe it. How do I get there, and how do I do it? Because I don't have exposure to anyone with knowledge about it other than someone on YouTube or something. So over the years, I would get questions, and eventually they just started becoming the same questions over and over. So I said, all right, I'm going to be leaving Korea. At the time, it was like about 6 or 8 months out. I said, all right, I'm going to be leaving Korea, in about 10 months. And I keep getting asked these questions. So you need to just sit down, because I've wanted to write a book for a while, and just lay it out and collect your thoughts and collect all the 4.5 years of questions in your mind, and what are the important ones that you want to kind of highlight. And that's what I put into it. So it's really from the very beginning. I just the same way that I approached making my channel, which was, okay, when I wanted to teach English, there was Busan Kevin, Durkee, there was Steve, and Charlie Cheer, the girl that.
Charlie, yeah.
Charlie, what's
Charlie.
in my bag,
of
and
course.
she was doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, wow, I want to put content out there and help people, give them some direction, and it just kept growing and growing, and more people were asking. So that's what drove that the project of writing the book.
Mm.
And it really just starts from the beginning. I just envisioned myself when I was looking, what are the questions that I had? And now that I've gone through it all for 4.5 years, what can you really turn around and say to people, especially someone younger who hasn't moved around like I have, maybe even within the States or from your home, moving around place to place. A lot of people have never left their hometown or even their parents' home, maybe, because they're still in college or something.
Yeah.
So it was from the point of really deciding if it's for you and making that decision, and then the whole process, get a job, get there, what to expect, how to process a lot of the shock and awe, and saving money, and all the different things like that. So that was the whole purpose of it, to hopefully put any knowledge or assistance that I could do into a book, so that it's out there. And I wanted to do it while I was in Korea, when it was all still fresh in my mind.
Cool. So, I mean, where can people find your book? Where can they buy it?
Well, it's on Amazon, but it's also on Smashwords, Barnes and Noble, iTunes Store. So it depends on whatever format you're looking for.
Okay, nice. It's all over the place. And
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Tom to send me those links, and I'll put those all in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com. So when you go to episode number 115, you'll see all the links to this book. So if you're interested in teaching in Korea, it's all there. I'm curious, Tom. So for those out there who are sitting in their parents' living room, they're in college, they're still at their parents' house, and hey, I lived with my parents when I went to college.
Yeah.
Or as we would say in Canada, university.
Yes, same here.
Very, very different. Very different. It's one of those cultural things I've noticed over the years of being abroad. I know that most of my friends from America refer to any kind of post-secondary education as college, whereas in Canada it's very different. The university is a 4-year degree program, and college is a technical, usually a 2-year technical program.
Right.
And I've got both, because I did the degree in university, and then I went and got a college diploma in 3D graphics. When my degree in arts didn't actually qualify me for any kind of job. But that's another story. That's another podcast. So for those out there who are at home, or they're living in America, they're living in Canada, they're doing something that's not teaching related, but they have an interest in Korea, or they have an interest in Japan, and they're like, wow, I'd really love to move to Asia to teach English. Do you have any advice for those people? Things that they could do to make, obviously there's every year there's a deluge of people throwing resumes towards English schools and universities and programs like EPIC or JET. What do you think are some things people can do to kind of make themselves stand out?
Well, the first thing I would say, even before getting to the job hunting part, is the two biggest things is, a lot of people ask kids that are in high school or college, I want to teach, what should I study? Should I study English? Should I study this and that? Here's what I would say. This is my personal opinion. You should not take a college course based on your desire to potentially teach ESL in Korea or Japan. If you want to be a teacher someday, whether it be in Korea or home or another country, then study education. But don't go out taking English or linguistics or ESL just because you want to go teach in Korea. Because you may never, even within a 2 or 3 year span, 4-year span in university, you may just change your mind. And then you're like, why did I do that? I'm not even going to Korea. Or you might go for 1 year and say, this was stupid, I hated it, or something like that.
Yeah.
So study what you want to study for the long haul, because they don't really care for the vast majority of jobs. They just want to make sure you have a degree, a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, and that's, I completely 120% agree with you. I worked in many different schools in Korea. I've worked in Japan, and the degree is what qualifies you for the visa.
Exactly.
And if you have a degree from if you're a native English speaker with a degree, it could be in business, commerce, science, English, um, Asian studies. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You're gonna get that visa.
Right, and that's really all it's about, is getting it. The reason why they're harping on, the degree is for the visa. So, what most people, not like yourself, you're a homeroom teacher.
Yeah. So I work at an international school. So in my case, you actually have to have a teaching license, which actually, in that case, at international schools, big international schools, you're gonna have to have a teaching degree in your own country, teaching experience in your own country, not just like ESL teaching, but as a homeroom teacher. That's a very different thing, though.
Very different.
Yeah. But as an English, and I got the same emails. People are like, I want to be an ESL teacher. Or I want to teach English in Korea. Should I get an English degree? I say no. Just get a degree.
Right. Study what you want to study.
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, in my later, here I am. I'm 40 years old now. I'll be 41 in a few days. Oh my God. Pardon?
Congratulations.
Yeah. But I mean, to be honest, I have a general arts degree and communications and English. And then I later went on to get technical stuff, and then I went to get my teaching degree. But if I could for all of you guys out there who know me, you follow my Instagram, you follow all this and that. If I could go back and study entomology or ornithology, I love photographing birds and bugs and reading about bugs and studying bugs. Like it's become a passion. I wish I could be a scientist, but
Right.
so we all have different things we go through. But at the end of the day, to be a teacher of English,
Right.
you just need to have that higher education to get the visa, and
Right.
hopefully a good grasp of your own language.
Yeah, because the nature of most of the jobs is just speaking and modeling authentic speech. I mean, that's the gist of it. So, until you get past that massive layer to get to the international school homeroom jobs, private schools, higher university, stuff like that, most people are content with doing the big gist of jobs and just kind of traveling or doing what they do. So that's why I would say study something that you're going to fall back on, because you're going to change your mind many times in life anyway. And so,
well, most people. You've been around the block a few times, as in you've been in Asia now for 5-6+ years, and the turnover rate's pretty steady. I find that. Maybe times have changed. I'm assuming times have changed in Korea, but I was in Korea from 2002 to early 2007, and I found that your typical ESL teacher would stay for 1 year.
Yeah.
And I remember they were like, there was almost like a derogatory term, because I'd been there at one point when I'd been there for 3 years. They're like, "You're a lifer."
Right.
I was like, I've been here for 3 years.
Right.
But when I meet people in Japan, I've met people who've been here for years and years and years. But then I still work with people who come for 1 year and they go. They come for 2 years and they go. It's a pretty transient thing. People come, they're like, I've had a wonderful experience, but now it's time to move on to a new experience.
Right. And I think much of that has to do with, I think, my second point, which is this. If a person, for anybody really, and of any age, they're sitting at home, I would say to you this: what is in your mind right now of what you think Kevin and I are doing, or what teaching abroad is not what it is.
Okay.
It's going to be completely different when you get here. Most people are watching YouTube videos. Most people are watching K-pop videos or J-pop videos, and they're like, "Oh, how awesome and romantic that would be," and but it's not quite that way. It's very different. It's life. You're going to be living life, doing what you're doing now in a way. Your job and going to grocery stores and going to the dentist and this and that. But you're going to be doing it in another country, which is interesting. But what happens is, I think some of them think it's going to be this
amazing adventure.
this like roller coaster ride the
Or
entire
fantasy.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
And but what they don't see is they don't see, look, every shade of gray of type of person and cast and character that is back home is generally speaking is in Korea, is in Japan.
Hmm.
The good, the bad, the ugly. So that's what it's really going to be like. And you can make it awesome and you can go away with amazing experiences and stuff like that. But that requires mental discipline. And so just you need to prepare yourself for that and not get too attached to what you might think it is.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's a very different experience for everyone. And I mean, a lot of people ask me, okay, so for example, in Korea, I went to Korea a single guy in my mid-20s,
Mm.
and I had some adventures.
Yeah.
I had some great times. I partied sometimes way too much. I traveled all around Southeast Asia, backpacking, kind of this and that in the holidays. I would do the whole, like, I'd work a contract, save up a bunch of money, because I was working at Hagwons. When I first came to Korea, like, there was no Epic. It was unheard of. Like, people did not teach in public schools. It didn't happen.
Mm.
There was no one. There was no
Right.
program. There was nothing. Like, basically, if you're a foreigner, you were teaching in a Hagwon.
Mm.
And it was really Wild West when I first got there. I mean, there was like, in theory, you're supposed to have a degree, but there was like tons of like Hagwons that would send people to Thailand, to Busan Road, to get like fake degrees and stuff, and come back with the fake
Jeez.
degrees. Like, and I even met people who were like, my Hagwon sent me to Thailand to get a fake degree
Really?
from the University of Toronto in English, and they would go, and you could go to Busan Road in Thailand, in Bangkok, and you could say, I'm a Canadian and I want a university degree from the University of Toronto, a Bachelor of Arts degree, and I need transcripts, and they would make these for you.
Wow.
And I knew guys who had like, I've been teaching for years in Korea this way, and it was like, oh my god, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really crazy. That was like 2002, and then like midway through that year, they started snapping down on those people.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, like, all kinds of people I knew were getting deported because they didn't have degrees, and like the immigration people were catching on to it. But I mean, I had my adventures. But now, for example, my time in Japan, I came to Japan because I met a Japanese woman in Busan.
That's so funny.
I know, huh?
That's
Who would have thunk it, right? And then we moved to Canada, and then we moved to Japan. So I mean, I came here a married man. And then I have a family, so people like, I can remember when I don't get these messages anymore, but when I first arrived here, people were like, what's the nightclub life in Japan? I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know. I've actually never been in a Japanese nightclub. I've been here for 8 years. I've never been in one.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly okay with that.
They're all the
People
same.
are like, what's dating like in Japan? I'm like, well, my friends tell me, blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
My coworkers tell me, blah 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 blah. But myself, I have no idea.
Right.
And they're like, but your wife's Japanese. I'm like, yeah, but I met her in another country, and she's the only Japanese person I've ever dated.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so I have no experience. I could talk a lot about family stuff and education, having kids in education. Well, but that's the wonderful thing about all of our experiences on YouTube and in here and there. We all have such different ones.
Yep.
But Tom, I'm curious. I don't want to keep you up much later. We've been talking for all this. We've been having a great talk. And of course, everyone out there listening, everything we've talked about tonight will be at justjapanstuff.com under episode 115, Red Dragon Diaries. But for those everyone's curious. How can people find you online? How can they find your social media stuff? Where you are, your YouTube, all that stuff. Can you throw all the links out at us?
Yeah, I guess the best for YouTube, it's Red Dragon Diaries, which you can also type in Soul T, which is still my original screen name for Red Dragon Diaries.
Yeah, but I've discovered, like, when you type in Red Dragon Diaries, just boom, there you are.
I think that's the easiest way.
That's you're the top search. You're the top hit. Yeah.
Yep, Red Dragon Diaries for YouTube, and also for my website or blog is Red Dragon Diaries. You can find job listings on my site now, and my book is there as well.
Cool.
And then Facebook is Facebook Soul T, but you could probably also type Red Dragon Diaries. It'll probably come up.
Cool. How about Twitter?
Twitter,
You don't use it so much, do you?
I really don't even use it.
Okay.
I know I
That's
should.
how I've been contacting you, but I mean,
Yeah. I really should. I should have done that a long time ago, but I just never got into it for some reason.
Yeah.
My bad.
I have to admit, I mean, I'm someone who finds my Facebook ecosystem the best, like the Just Japan Podcast Facebook page, which is actually a Busan Kevin page. But I say Just Japan Podcast because that's the relevance now. That's where I play. That's my ecosystem. I love hanging out with all the people on the Just Japan Podcast Facebook page. Twitter, I'm like, I post stuff there.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't have much interaction there. I just post stuff there.
Yeah, same here. I'm mostly just Facebook is the best place for me.
Totally. Well, cool. Well, Tom, thank you so much for doing this tonight. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, it was good to finally actually talk to you. I know we've sent messages and whatnot through videos, but it was good to talk to you finally after all these years.
It was really cool. So thank you so much. And everyone go over and check out his stuff and like his stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like and share.
Like and share. Share.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I want to thank Tom for taking the time to stop by the Just Japan podcast and chat about his experiences in Korea, his experiences in Japan, his time learning about judo, training in judo, and to talk about his YouTube channel. So, of course, all the links to Tom, to get hold of Tom, to contact him, to find out all his stuff online will be in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com, as well as a lot of the videos we talked about tonight. So it's a one-stop shop. You go there, you check out, you can find all the videos, you can find out all the links to Tom, to all the things I talk about. Go check it out. All right, guys, remember, summer's here. It's time to make sure you consume lots of water, sports drinks, or juice. Beware of heat stroke. It's happening a lot. If you're in Japan, be careful because the humidity is insane. Take care of yourself and make sure you're drinking a lot. If you're traveling to Japan this summer, really take care of yourselves. Try to get into air conditioning when you can. And really be aware of consuming a lot of liquids. I recommend sports drinks like Aquarius, Pocari Sweat, Amino Value if you can find it. That's probably your best one, but it's kind of hard to come by. Those things are great. Keep yourself hydrated, be safe, keep your head covered up. The sun is very intense here in Japan. So of course you can find the Just Japan podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher Internet Radio, on SoundCloud, on Libsyn. We're all over the place. All the show notes are at justjapanstuff.com. There's stuff all over the place there. Remember like I mentioned earlier on in the episode, the Just Japan Stuff Patreon campaign has been reinvigorated. There's incentives now. There weren't incentives before. You can get yourself mentioned in the episodes. You can get like bonus material, bonus podcasts. You can pimp your stuff on the podcast if you want to, depending on what it is, if it fits, and maybe even get yourself interviewed if you'd like. Check out that at patreon.com/JustJapan podcast. The link will be in the show notes, of course, as well. It helps a lot. If you guys like the podcast, you think this brings happiness to you, you can help out. So there you go. But you can also always help out just by sharing the podcast. Share this podcast on Twitter, on your Facebook, on your whatever you may be using. I'd say Google Plus, but but share the podcast and help spread the word about the Just Japan podcast. I definitely appreciate it. And just a reminder, if you go to justjapanstuff.com, it's not always just podcast stuff there. I'm going to try to write some more stuff there and put some other blog posts about life in Japan, nature Japan, all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, also check out my wildlife photography, guys. I love taking pictures of nature, of insects, of birds, and all that stuff. It's over on Facebook, facebook.com/birds of Kansai. Also, of course, if you want to see what Japan looks like, go check out my YouTube channels, youtube.com/BusanKevin, because I used to live in Busan, South Korea, many years ago, and youtube.com/JlandKev. So there you go, guys. That's it for another week of the Just Japan podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talking to Tom from the Red Dragon Diaries. I know I certainly enjoyed the conversation. I was excited about it, and I was really happy to learn a lot of cool things. Yeah, but that's it. So stay tuned. Next week we'll be back right at you with a new episode, another cool topic about Japan. So until then, hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, and I'll be talking to you very soon.
Wow.